Hey everybody, my name is Aldous Collins, and we're back for another week of Shine a Light. And this week's guest is Devin Adams. He's a great restaurateur in downtown Quincy, and we can't wait to talk to him. I don't know how to pronounce that, but Convicer PG, thanks for joining in. I'm just going to wait till I see Devin pop up on the screen, and then I'll invite him into the interview. Amy Marie, how's it going? Thanks for tuning in. So you might know Devin from his great restaurant in downtown Quincy called Townshend. It's right downtown, and it's amazing. But I want to hear a little more from him before we start getting into it. And there's also a new restaurant that he and his team has opened up in downtown also, which is called Pearl and Lime. I've been to Townshend, but I have not yet been to Pearl and Lime. It's been closed when I've gone there. So I'm just now waiting for Devin to tune in, and then we'll get going and we'll hear all about Devin's story. Happy Friday, everybody. Convicer, is that how you say that? Am I right? How did you hear about Quincy Urban Arts? And Amy, how's it going today? Tangney? Is that how you say that? Tangney? Awesome. Cool. Well, thank you guys so much for joining in. Oh, great. What's that space? We'd love to talk to you. Come by, say, let's reach out to me and we'll talk. I'm gonna invite Townshend in, and then we'll talk. And if you guys have anything you want to say as the this is going on, please just write your comments, and we'll talk a little bit with Devin here. We're connected now.
I'm in.
Look at this is what we're talking about. Look at this guy, savage. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome, Devin Adams.
How we doing?
Doing pretty good.
10 in the morning.
Yeah.
That's good.
Thank you so much for joining in. I know it's probably with all the stuff you have going on. It's probably pretty early.
No, it's all good. It's all good. It feels good. I already dropped the kids off, and they're in a good place. I'm in a good place. I'm at the Townsend, so I feel good. How do you feel?
I feel pretty good. I went to G Love last night.
There you go.
Yeah. A little tired, but I'm not bad.
Good. Good.
But I've been going for a while anyway. We got a new baby, so I'm up early.
That's it.
Really, you know a little bit about Quad and about our whole team and stuff, and we're just trying to support the good people at Quincy and beyond. And we thought it would be nice to celebrate you. You run so far. I haven't been into Pearl and Lime because you're just a go. I can't catch you over there, but I'm gonna be over there.
All over.
I'm gonna try to go in tonight. But you're at Townshend tonight. I'll be over there.
I might be at Pearl and Lime shucking oysters tonight. We'll see. You never know.
If you are, either way, I'll find you. I'm going to be over there tonight. Tell us a little bit about your journey and how you've gotten to this point in your first restaurant, Townshend.
Sure, long journey. I guess goes back probably 20 years ago when I got out of high school. I moved with my buddy to Hawaii, and with like $1,200 in my pocket.
Where in Hawaii?
We ended up living in Hawaii Kai, so on the main island of Oahu, and it's expensive to live out there, and we need to get a job right away. And I ended up working at this. I think it literally was called the Shack. It was like this burger, kind of like waterside burger bar. Whatever it was. And I started cooking in the kitchen and then bar backing, and kind of just got a hold of that part of it. But there was a restaurant in the same little kind of strip mall. Everything's kind of strip malls out there for the most part, and it was called Roy's, and Roy's has become kind of like a big national chain, and the chef was Roy Yamaguchi, and restaurant was great, but basically a lot of the line cooks at Roy's would work at least one shift a week at the Shack, because if you worked there, your employee discount was like 50% off all booze. So they knew if they worked one shift at the Shack, they could come after work from Roy's and drink all night for 50% off. So it was kind of this interesting little culture there. But they, I started kind of working with some of these guys that were like high touch chefs, and they'd cook me food, and they just kind of taught me a lot of fun and interesting things and showed me that culture. So it was one of those things where I was jumped into the business for sort of survival and a quick job, but quickly got into that culture of like really nice food, and just honestly being around people and that type of work where you're always on your feet, really sort of stuck with me. So when I moved back to Massachusetts, I moved to Boston, and I started working for a chef called Todd English, who at the time was kind of was one of the first celebrity chefs in his day.
I did some work for Todd. I did.
Yeah, so you know Todd.
I did. Yeah, I know. I did a decorative finish on. What was his latest one that he did? What was the one that not the one that burnt down? Not olives.
Olives. And then I worked at. I was on when Kingfish Hall opened, and then he had Bonfire. He had the Figs. I mean, I think at one point he probably had like 8 restaurants in Boston. I think now he's got maybe 1, and I don't even know if I think Figs is maybe there. But he kind of.
It was that other one. Kingfish was before this one. It was like the last one, and then things went down.
Yeah. Again. Yeah.
But anyway, there's another person in common. Go ahead.
Yep. And that sort of was so I went to work at Kingfish, and at the time it was, the number 1 restaurant in Boston. It was the number one of the best seafood restaurants in the Northeast. And I just sort of, as Todd was expanding, he was pulling people out of his restaurant. So they lost their sommelier. One of their bar managers sort of got taken out to either go to Vegas or whatever was happening. I was bar backing there, but because they started ripping out all this talent, I just started kind of moving up, and I realized that there was a sort of gap. So I went to school and I started studying wine, because I sort of inherited this big wine list that I knew nothing about. So I was like, well, I gotta kind of figure this out. I had a couple sort of trainings with the Somm that they had while I was there, and just kind of realized this fun point with wine pairing and food, and how they could sort of each in hand change each other's profile and flavor. And I thought that was really interesting. So I got into wine, and went to school and started studying for sommelier. And then I think I was there for maybe like 5 or 6 years, and I moved on, and I started working at a restaurant called Luca on Hanover Street in the North End, which was a big kind of high-end Italian spot with an American Italian wine list. And again, was just pushing. Wine was kind of my culture at that point, wine and hospitality. And I loved bartending, and it was sort of a great job, a great neighborhood. And that sort of ran its course, and I ended up going to work for Island Creek Oyster Bar on the opening team there in Kenmore. And that's when I really kind of jumped in and got into the kind of classic cocktails. I started working with Jackson Cannon, who's, one of the kind of fathers of bringing the whole cocktail revolution to light, and really changing the culture behind basically the bar following the quality of the kitchen. For so long, it was like, your sour mix was a powdered sugar stuff you put in a bag, and, nothing was really fresh behind the bar. So it was interesting to kind of see that sense of, in that culture with cocktails, everything really get that high. So that sort of tricked a bug in me, where I worked for Island Creek, I think I forget, maybe it was like 3 years. And then I ended up going to work for Barbara Lynch at her cocktail bar called Drink, which was kind of no menu. You come in and it's sort of like, hey man, what do you like to drink? How do you like to drink it? Do you like citrus? Do you like spirit forward? And just try to go through the mental Rolodex of like which cocktail would be perfect for them. And it just kind of brought to that pinnacle of like, okay, now I have a really good understanding of wine. I have a really good understanding of cocktails and beer, and a real strong appreciation for taking care of people and hospitality. And that's really the Garrett Harker, Barbara Lynch duo. You see them really being almost scientific about hospitality. I think a lot of people...
I would say your hospitality is amazing. You got a great staff. It's one of my favorite spots to go, the Townshend, and I'm looking forward to going to Pearl and Lime, and I'm sure it looks awesome.
You'll see the same thing. Yeah,
but you're what a fascinating little path you've been on.
Yeah,
like you've really been dabbling in a bunch of stuff. No wonder why you have such a nice refined taste. It's great.
If you like what you do, it comes easy, right? That's the idea, is finding something that you don't feel like is work. Even if you're working 80 hours a week and it doesn't feel like it because you love what you're doing. You're not going to love it all the time, but if it's the majority of, you know the drill.
I know the drill. Well, I think that, as a customer and in life, I feel like when you're putting out an experience, it has to feel like a vacation to the customer. Because it's tough to be able to step out and do stuff, especially now. And every time I've been to your place, I love it. So super kudos. I wanted to mention one thing that kind of is a way to celebrate you and your team, and it has to do with me, but it really doesn't. So we did that. I did that Spiritual Gangster stop.
Yeah. Thank you very much.
And that's where I played music for, just to support people that, whoever I could. And what was beautiful about that is that stop, which was to raise money for staff in your world. It showed how many people love you guys.
Yeah. A lot of people came out for that, which is nice.
It was, to be honest, for how much was put into it, it was an incredible show of support for you guys.
Yeah.
And I learned something about you that day that in that time personally that I won't forget. You, just like you said, you're passionate. You drove over to my house and you gave me a really thoughtful, awesome gift. You could have given me whatever, but you took your time and you gave me a really thoughtful gift. And I think that that's kind of how you are. You're serious about what you do, and you're grateful, and it shows. It's really cool.
I appreciate that. But I think that's kind of the beauty of our business too, is that we get to collaborate, right? We get to, the front of the house gets to collaborate with the back of the house. We get to collaborate with artists like yourself. And I think what came from that is it wasn't something we would normally do or really even attempt to. And you kind of gave us that stepping stool to kind of be like, all right, well, Aldous is going to play ball, and he's going to let us do this, and we can kind of work through him. And that's what the business is. I think when I talk about hospitality and I talk about business, yesterday I had a guy come in trying to sell, marketing in one of those like mailers, where it's like, basically it's a bunch of coupons. And the way, I don't want someone cutting out a coupon for $10 and coming in and being like, oh, I get this, I'm going to get a free appetizer or whatever it is. What I like to do is basically empower my staff and give them that kind of coupon, give them the opportunity to spend some of our resources to make people have a great day, to push their experience forward. If I empower my staff to have the ability to be like, oh, I heard that guy talking about how he wanted to taste that new Widowmaker, but he ended up getting this beer. Like, I'm going to pour him a half a beer after he finishes that and just drop it on him. That's what makes the experience, is being empowered to go in and make decisions, because a lot of restaurants that I worked before, it was like everything kind of had to go through a manager or some other sort of point of clearance, and it was like it's never kind of in the moment, you know, it gets halted. So I think, you know, the individual empowerment and trust is where you can see that like nice range of hospitality and giving and those things, and that's where I'm lucky, is that I just have a staff and people around me that they don't take advantage of it, they use it, they like to see people have a good time, they like to see, you know, to build regulars and have people come back, and that's why, you know, the Townsend's made it. It's 5 years. We've had a lot of loyal people and a lot of people that, you know, want to support us, as you saw when you did the charity thing for us. You know, a lot of people came out, which is great. It feels good.
Well, you're definitely making like this family thing, and I think that that's something to be celebrated. And yeah, I just love seeing it. I love you know, your menu is unique. What would be one of your favorite things on the menu?
At the Townsend, it's the chicken, which is like what everyone's like, you know, don't get chicken at a restaurant. But
Which one?
At the Townsend, it's a brick pressed chicken, which sort of everyone's doing right now. But it really matters on the quality of the chicken that you buy, and really what we stand by is we're not trying to break barriers or and create new food or do anything that's like, you know, that you've never seen before. We're just trying to produce and execute things that are really high quality. And the Gianone chickens, they're a very specific special bird that's basically made with love. And the process that they go through is just, it's a much better process. It's a much more expensive bird, but it's just always, it's brick pressed. It always has beautiful crispy skin. It's always on a nice risotto, but it's one of those.
I've had it. It's
yeah,
killer.
it's killer.
It's so good. It's so
every
good.
time I have it, I'm just like, I love this dish, you know. And then I love the steak tartare. I love the fried oysters. That really, there's a lot of stuff that I love, but I always end up going back to that. And our house bolo is delicious. And
I haven't had that.
Yeah, the bolognese has never left the menu. That goes back to Chef Bobby, our original opening chef, and it's just again, it's elevated comfort, but it's executed well. And
you know what's killer is your shrimp.
Yeah, the shrimp with romesco.
Whatever you're doing with those is so good. So now you have your original spot, and now you've opened up Pearl and Lime.
Yep.
Now, tell us a little bit about how what inspired it, and how it's been opening up in such a horrible time.
I know, it's crazy.
I mean, what a crazy time to be doing stuff. But you know, I went in there. To be honest, I love the vibe in there. It looks so cool. What a cool. What did you put, like that simple tile behind the bar or right under the bar?
Yeah.
I love how that looks, and then the wood. Nice treatments in there. It looks great.
It's beautiful. We were so lucky with Pearl and Lime, and to be honest, I think at the time we weren't really looking to. The Townsend was growing so quickly, and we weren't necessarily looking to get involved with another restaurant yet. But Palmer, my partner, Matthew.
I don't know Palmer that well, but I talked to him a little bit yesterday. Was it yesterday? Yesterday.
Yeah. So we had worked at Drink together, and then he's a Quincy native. So when I was scouting out the towns, and he kind of came down, and I think at the time he was going to be working for like Yvonne's, and that opening for Yvonne's kept getting pushed out by like, I think over a year. So he ended up coming down and helping us out, and then just kind of stuck around. And he basically had one of our old drink regulars was at the bar at the Townsend while Palmer was working. He was like, hey, you know, the restaurant down the street that was in the space isn't going to make it, and they're looking for someone, you know, who understands this market and, you know, kind of has survived. Because we were a little bit early for Quincy. You know, all the development really hadn't started yet. You know, the demographic was a little bit different. But so we went down and we had a meeting with the guys that own the building down there, which is Quincy Mutual Fire Insurance. And it just kind of clicked. They seemed like they were just like wholeheartedly wanted to make sure that their tenants stayed up there and that they weren't, they weren't being greedy, and that they were gonna give us a lot of help, and that they wanted to help us. And they just felt that we could put in a product that would sustain the building, and we didn't even really know what it was going to be, to be honest. It was kind of like they put a deal in front of us, and I kind of was like, oh my God, that's a, what they would call a sweetheart deal. And then we started kind of thinking about, well, what fits the demographic, what fits the other businesses around us without being competitive, and what's lacking in Quincy. And we kind of went from there. So we looked around and we're like, well, we really love rum on the beverage side, right? Like the Townshend's kind of like, we've got one of the better whiskey selections in the Northeast. So we're sort of classic cocktails, and we've got a beautiful wine list. And our beer program's spectacular. It's all local, and it moves around all the time, and it's very creative. Em does a great job. But we kind of looked at it and we're like, well, rum's having its moment, agave and mezcal's having its moment, starting kind of thinking from what we would want to produce as bartenders. And then when we looked around, we're like, well, tiki doesn't really work because that's more kind of gearing towards the Asian side, and we don't really need to, Quincy's got such a large Asian demographic, and there's so much good quality spots around here. It's like, we don't want to be in that game. And then when we realized, well, if we could pull rum and agave together and do this kind of like Mexican kind of lead with the comfort of like tacos and that kind of food, and maybe go into the Caribbean where most of your rum is produced, and maybe do some Jamaican jerk chicken or some beef patties or whatever, but just give us the freedom to kind of bounce around that area and lead with just a killer beverage program. And Pearl and Lime was just kind of born out of that, where we were like, you know what, there's no oyster bar around here that's doing a great job. And we kind of looked at like what Loco was doing in Southie, and we were like, all right, they kind of did a good job of like having some oysters and like this just hyper fresh, Mexican style food. And we thought that we could kind of go in that same direction, but again, leading with getting into that rum world. And, as Palmer would put it, it's like, hey, it's Mai Tais, it's margaritas, it's mojitos, it's the fresher side of cocktails. And we just kind of pushed it out from there and got the ball rolling. I mean, it's a very hard process, but it's a very rewarding process. And I think, as you talk about that space, we were able to get the Cat's Design Studio, which they are just they're premier designers in Boston. And normally I don't even think we could have really even gotten them, but we just were in a position when they did a lot of the design work for Barbara Lynch, and we just made a connection, and the design work and the build is just it's phenomenal. Every day we walk into that space, we're just like, there's not another space like it in Quincy, and no one's really doing what we're doing down there in Quincy. So it's bringing it all together, and we just got a killer staff down there because, I hate to say it, but a lot of the Boston's having a really tough time right now with the pandemic, and a lot of the servers and bartenders and management that's kind of been working there isn't going back to work anytime soon. So we've been able to just pick up some really talented people, and we're stoked about it, So it's the same thing. It's gracious hospitality. It's good quality food, with a real serious beverage program. And it's a week and a half in, but actually I should say we're in our third week, but our first week we opened, we had to close because there was a plumbing issue, and then they fixed that, and we sort of reopened, and then we had another plumbing issue, closed, and then reopened. It's just opening restaurants is never easy, but once it's up and running and it's rolling and it's smooth, it's rewarding. So it's been good.
Well, I would say so. I've walked in before opening hours twice now, maybe 3 times, and yesterday when I walked in the idea, or at least what I think about of it, an experience, and what I like that you kind of hit on for me is, and maybe, I mean, I feel a little Hawaii in there or something, and you've been to Hawaii, I don't know, but, or worked there and lived there, but I like how you walk in and it's already an experience.
Yeah.
It's already
Absolutely.
like before, so I haven't even eaten there, but I'm like, well, this feels good.
Yeah.
And I love that when you go to a place and it already feels good.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I'm excited to go there. We'll have to figure out where you're gonna be tonight. But I want to come. I want to come and say hi to you wherever
Yep.
you are. And so what do you think is the next move? I mean, we have a lot of things to juggle right now, and I feel like learning more about you and as a business owner, but also as a person. I feel like you, maybe it's stuff that you don't want to disclose, but I feel like you're super thoughtful about what you do, and in these weird times, which they're really weird and they're hard and divisive and ambiguous, and it's super hard to navigate.
Yeah.
You know, I think you've done a inspiring job, and you know, a very courageous thing. It's pretty cool. It's actually, I like how I'm learning a lot about you, and I hope everybody else is learning some of the stuff that's it's inspiring. It's inspiring where you come from, what you've put down, the fact that it's actually enjoyable all the time, not only food but experience. Your staff is great, and that's, you know, it's a beautiful thing. And I'd really like the fact that it's Quincy Mutual. Those are your landlords here?
Over at Pearl and Lime. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
That's a pretty nice story that you're like, oh, I got a sweetheart deal, and these people are encouraging, and they're hopeful for you too, because, you know, I can understand why they would be. A guy that in the middle of the pandemic that drives over to my house and drops off something, that day from right there, I was like, you know what? You got a sweetheart deal because you're sweet.
I'm in.
It sounds a little weird, but I mean, it's true. You're a nice guy. So, you know, you should be celebrated. And I'm really happy that we're, you know, having you on here and talking a little bit more about you. I feel like I'm like much more informed about like, you didn't just come from nowhere. Who was that walking by there?
I don't know if he just dropped off bread or one of the delivery guys. Starts early. We don't open until 4, but there's people here all day long.
I was wondering if like we were gonna like get a hold up or something cool or something like that while we're talking. So now that you're here, and me, you know, I'm just kind of like, I find that like we talked about something before that was about 2 weeks ago, something else. But what do you have that is coming up? Anything special going on that you can like highlight right now?
I mean, right now it's literally kind of all Pearl and Lime. You know, we're gonna, you sort of tier it out when you open, where it's like, okay, let's start with, you know, the strongest part of the menu, but then you're going to expand it, you know, and you're going to kind of grow into what you can be. It's you kind of have to learn the space, you have to learn the kitchen, you have to have a better understanding once it's working. Thing is, you know, you dream up and you put all these things on paper, but then when it becomes actionable, it's a different story. So, you know, we'll be heads down there. We'll be, you know, basically just getting that set on its trajectory. And then, to be honest, the scary thing is really thinking about the Townshend and what happens when we lose our 40 seats on the patio and we turn into like what basically with the restrictions is like, instead of what people have to realize is if we look at our capacity at the Townshend, I think inside is 85, and then we're going to go down to 26 seats. Nobody can wait. You know, it's going to be cold outside, and what can you do to actually keep your staff and everyone working and ideally keep the doors open with 26 seats is difficult. So I think we've got some really fun plans to possibly take our patio, and we're attached to this. If you're familiar with the space, but obviously we've got Harvard Vanguard and Quincy College, and there's this big atrium in the middle. And we've gone to the city, which they've just, shout out to the city of Quincy, just because anything that you ask for, within reason, like, hey, we want to expand our patio, we want to do this. They're so good for businesses and small businesses, and just trying to make sure that, there's not so much red tape to jump through. Everything's processed really quick, and they've been, I think all the businesses in Quincy, especially restaurants, we probably don't realize it, but in talking with a lot of my other friends that have businesses, some of the hoops that they have to jump through just to try to survive is insane from town to town. And Quincy has been amazing. So we're going to attempt to kind of like take our whole patio and like move it into the atrium and have this kind of like,
cool,
indoor patio kind of thing, just so we can, try to serve as many guests as we're serving now, So I think that's part of the process too. That's fun. It's kind of like, it's nerve-wracking because, to be frank, like, we wouldn't survive with only 26 seats. It just doesn't make sense. You don't need to run the numbers to realize that if you can only do, a quarter of your business, then you're probably not going to survive with the staff that you have. So that's kind of fun, where we've been talking with the building, and it's like, well, do we do some silent movies? Do we, how do we set this place up with our patio kind of indoors? How do we service it and kind of figure out the logistics? But that's the kind of stuff that's fun. It's sort of like, it's scary, but like we're gonna create something new. And what can we do with this? It's a giant space. It's a glass atrium, and the ceiling's probably 100 feet up. So how do you make the space still inviting when you're kind of in the middle of it? And again, you just have to be creative. So that's really with the whole pandemic, that opening up during it's not ideal, but you're moving, and you're being creative, and you're staying above. I think we've seen the pandemic really kind of like eat at people's mental state, and I think staying above it is being busy and being able to be creative and discover new things. So for the most part, a lot of this has probably been pretty therapeutic. Being with the kids and the wife at home was bar none, unbelievable. But being, if you're just kind of stuck in that and stuck at home and you've got the news on and you're doing that whole thing, like it's not a positive time, So
sure,
I think all of this and again, being able to share it with the family and have them involved is big, because they get to see that there's things happening that are positive. So it's been tricky, it's been rough, but I think we've got fun stuff happening. You know what I mean? So it'll just keep pushing Chrono Lime and the Townshend, and we'll keep going.
I think that the atrium space will be really cool. So I'm looking forward to that. That'd be great.
Yeah.
So I'll probably see you tonight, or I will. I'll make sure.
Track me down.
I'll track you down. Devin also is a master at pointing hard to get, so you gotta watch him.
I mean, we've got so just to throw it in there, but also I think through the rest of September and October is the we're still doing the Adams Inn with Widowmaker, which is just such a great venue. So that's been something that was key to us too, is that when we could only open outside of the towns, it was like, well, we got 30 seats, and then it was like, well, you guys could take over the spot with Widowmaker and have like 180 seats, and it was like, oh, all right, that's awesome. And then when we kind of got down and started working it,
180 seats. Jeez.
Yeah, there's 180 seats down there. So it's and again, it's on the river. It's beautiful. The sunsets are crazy.
So you've during COVID, you went from 1 to 3.
Yeah.
That's nuts. That's nuts. It's really amazing. I haven't been there, but I've been to Adams Inn a while ago, but I haven't been. But I love the people at Widowmaker. They're really cool, and they make a great product. So that's a nice team.
Yep.
Good things, man. You're awesome.
Keep moving.
Yeah, I really appreciate you hanging out and taking the time to talk to us today.
Absolutely.
And tell me, I'm not sure where I'll be able to eat, because I might be bringing my kid tonight. I'm not sure, but if I go to Pearl and Lime,
Mhm.
what is the go-to dish for you?
Right now, it's been and I'm going to mispronounce it, it's the pastillos, or they're like Puerto Rican empanadas that
Ooh, I love empanadas.
Chef Pedro makes them by hand, and they are, he's doing like a vegetable one and a meat one, but they are, it's like, it's the kind of like ultimate hot pocket kind of deal going on. It's ridiculous food, and it's high quality, and it's delicious. So those are definitely my go-to right now. And then obviously the tacos and everything like that are killer. So it's always a work in progress. Again, we've only really been serving guests for, I think Palmer said it was like maybe 14 shifts yesterday. So, but our attitude is it's always going to get better. It's always going to get better and better, and that's what we strive for.
Well, you are a hard-working dude, and you got a big heart, and I wish you all the success, but I don't think you're not going to need much wishing, because there's not too many people that are expanding in the restaurant field during a super tough time, and I think that there's reasons why you are. So people out there listening, check out the Townshend and Pearl and Lime. You've been talking with Devin Adams. You're a great guy. I'm glad to be getting to know you better and better. And
same here. Yeah,
I'll be catching up with you tonight, brother.
I hope so.
Thanks so much. You're awesome.
You got it, man. Thank you.
All right.
Cheers. Take care.